which is like moving to another planet. Not only was the culture of Silicon Valley different, but even the culture of San Francisco, where I live, it was very different world. So how did I manage to get anything done in this newer environment? Was I able to succeed in this new world? Yes, I did. It took me a while to figure it out. And really understanding how I got there goes to the heart of today's class. But first, a little more about me. My career and why I've gotten good at this has been primarily in client-facing. And he said to me, I doubt they understood what you wanted. He said, I think they misunderstood your requirements, and I should go back across the hall and use the whiteboard and draw a picture of what I wanted. Until that day, I never saw the need to explain what I wanted in pictures. But I did. I went across the hall, and the same engineer said, oh, is that what you want? Yeah, we can do that too. Drawing on the whiteboard was their language, and once I communicated in a language they understood, they knew what I wanted. And of course today, I'm going to help everyone understand how to get what you want from management and the optimal communication approach that you should utilize. So now you're probably thinking, how can I see the world through management's eyes? Doesn't that require me to understand how they think? Absolutely. And in today's course, I'm going to discuss how you can learn to better understand their perspectives. The first step in becoming an effective communicator is to ask yourself what you want from your management. You'd be amazed how many people don't think, what's my objective, right? Do you want them to approve a project? Do you want them to provide greater resources for your project? Do you want a raise or a promotion? Each of these objectives requires a different approach. For example, to obtain greater resources for a project, you really need to first understand the value of that project to the company and to your management. Keep in mind that depending on your ask, example, take 3 days off next week versus getting 3 more developers assigned to the project versus increasing the budget by $100,000, each of these requires different information. Your manager may be the only one needed to get days off approved. However, when it comes to getting another 100,000, your manager may need to prepare a formal request that needs to be approved 1, 2, or maybe even more levels above them. So let's look at that $100,000 request. First, your manager's concerned that they might look bad. Their manager would want to know why they need the money. Didn't you say the original budget was plenty for the project? Now you need more? Why? So the first person you need to give comfort and ammunition to is your manager. In addition to your reputation, their reputation's on the line too. If they need to get approvals 1 or 2 levels higher, then those people are also thinking that this request could hurt them too. Why do you need 100,000 more? Now let's look at an even bigger picture. So what is going on in your company today? Are the sales and profits increasing? Is the company growing at a healthy pace? Or is business slow and they're looking to cut back? I bring this up because this is what's going on. If they have tons of money, it's going to be easier. If money is tight, it's even going to be harder, right? So the next question you want to answer is, how important is this project to the company? Is this part of a bigger project that has a critical need to be completed by X date? Or is it a nice to have that finally got funded? What's the context to the project? Some technical people have told me they work on a lot of projects, and many times they have no idea of the need for the work or the priority of the project. If you want to maximize your success in getting what you want, you're going to need to learn what goes on with each project. You need to learn the information for everything you do. What's the importance of it? Where does it fit in? If you want to be seen as a hero, then you're going to want to try to align your priorities to the company's priorities. So now the question is, how do I find this out? Well, the best way to find out about the significance and purpose of projects is to first make sure you have a good rapport with your boss to figure out to learn what they know. Secondly, you're going to want to find a way to meet people and build relationships with others in your company and also in business. Maybe you can offer to help with projects in other areas. You need to build your network. You can offer to help with projects in other areas. You could volunteer to be on cross-disciplinary committees or teams to address needs. You need to get a better sense of what's going on. The most effective way to obtain that $100,000 budget increase is to be able to present your need in the context of the benefit to the company. For example, as I understand it, this project is going to enable the e-commerce team to increase their hourly transaction volume by 50%. I believe last holiday season we lost about 20% of our sales due to technical limitations at checkout. And that equated to about $500,000 in lost profits. Now, given that this is July, and at the current rate, this project will not be completed till November or December at the earliest, the additional $100,000 would enable us to bring on more developers and accelerate the project to a September completion date, thereby providing lots of time for testing to assure it will be fully functional by November in time for the holidays. Now, in that context, it would sure seem like that $100,000 investment would definitely be worth it so that you can make an additional $500,000 in profit. So now I'm sure many of you are saying, what are you, crazy? There's no way I can get all this information. And I get it, okay, but I'm trying to give you a framework so that you can understand that you want to be able to present your case with the best information you can find or estimate. Yes, I said estimate. Sometimes you can get numbers or metrics, you can kind of back into it and estimate. That's going to put you in a much stronger position. But what about raises, promotions, other asks? It's the same framework. In the case of raises and bonuses, you're going to want to quantify your personal accomplishments in dollars and cents to justify whatever raise you're looking for. For a raise, the first thing I do is research the market to learn what your job is paying at similar companies. Now, you couple that with demonstrating that the work you did for your company, which I'll call your accomplishments in the past 12 months, saved the company $250,000 in storage costs. Again, now you have empirical data as to why it's worth it for your company to give you a raise. If you really want to go deep on salary negotiations, I do a full online class in this where I present a step-by-step plan, but many times it gets overlooked, is really determining what you really want from management before you even communicate. Some of the things you may want to learn are answers to your questions regarding the requirements and specific details for a project. You may need greater support for existing projects, including additional resources and budget. And you probably noticed that some people are very effective in getting what they want from management, while others seem to be brushed off quickly. So how does someone get management's interest? Well, two key words to this: respect and credibility. And this affects your leverage in getting what you want from management. This is where your reputation and track record can become a driver of success and leverage. In the next section of today's course, I'm going to go into more detail as to how to build your credibility and respect. But for now, one really valuable step is to present your asks based on the framework we just discussed, presenting things in management's language. So, for example, perhaps you're working on a project or an assignment, and you need more direction or input. However, management just wants you to get it done and wants it done with the least amount of management time expended. And they're barely giving you any direction, and you don't want to be halfway into the project and someone says, well, that's not what we want. You need to do something else, and now you got to go back to square one. So one thing you got to remember, management usually has a lot on their plates. And that's why, in their minds, the only instruction they want to provide is to get it done. But then you're faced with making lots of decisions that management may not like or want. So how do you bridge that gap? Well, first, you want to know the why of the project, okay? you want to know the why of the project. Is everybody hearing me? Someone wrote, is the audio gone? Can someone just say if you're hearing me, just put it in the thing, in the chat box? Audio's working fine. Okay, cool. So this is really big. Understand the why of the project. Why does management need this project? What is its purpose? Most of the time, management speaks in a strategic language. They live to talk about strategy and vision. But when it comes to tactics, they delegate. So if you try to talk to them in a tactical language, like, here's what it does, here's all the features, here's all the things it's going to do, they may not be as receptive, because that's like getting into the weeds of something. They don't want to get in the weeds. But if you talk to them a strategic language, many will be more receptive. This is why understanding the why of the project, the purpose of it. What is its purpose and why do they need it? Is it a must-have? Is it a nice-to-have? Because if it's a must-have, it's connected to something. It's something you're doing that is a reason it's a must-have. Like the example I gave with the e-commerce situation. That's a must-have. Christmas is coming and they don't want to lose sales. That's a must-have, right? But by providing a valuable reason as to why it's to their benefit to listen to you. For example, talking about better understanding the why of the project, as you may have ideas on how to do it faster or for less money or with less resources. Now that's going to get their attention because it comes sooner for less money. That's what they want, right? Now, admittedly, you might not be able to determine if you can do any of those things initially, but you're letting them know that it's always on your mind to complete projects as soon as possible for the least amount of money with the least amount of resources. I know it sounds counterproductive. You're thinking, oh, then I won't get enough resources. But the message you're sending is when you ask for a resource, it's because you really need it. Versus, I just get more resources, right? If they think you're always the person that says, oh, I don't want that because I think we can do it for less. Then when you ask for something, they think, oh, he must really need it. Now the management is incented to share the objectives and their whys of the project to help you best understand the optimal direction and decisions to make as you move through it, because they see your focus, your objective is what they like. You want to save money, do it faster, okay? And you don't want to use as many resources. Oh, I like that. But can you give me a better sense where we're going with this, where it connects? Because I want to make sure when I allocate what resource I have, I do it most effectively. Most management likes when employees take initiative and make decisions to get a project completed. I do understand that some management is very detail-driven and will give very specific instructions, but I'm just addressing these instances here when you may not get a lot of direction and you want to make sure you don't have to go back later and redo anything. So in order to help everyone get better at some of the strategies and tactics, I've created an exercise. Think about some time or times when you were so how do employees get the same celebrity status? Well, obviously, if you could be quoted in articles, interviewed on TV, publish a book, that's great. But that's really not realistic for most of us. But it does, this type of stuff provides leverage with many in your industry. And it could also help you get noticed by CEOs. So, another thing, another course, and another thing you might consider is I do a course in branding, and we talk about, knows his stuff. If he wants it, we should give it to him. Or Susie, whatever. Number one, do the projects nobody else wants. And pick something that's an important project. That's why it says overseen by a top executive, right? I once took a job that I considered a hero failure opportunity. And the reason I characterize it that way is because the sales territory had hundreds of prospects. But the top 10 prospects, literally top 10, represented 85 to 90% of the potential. Even more significant is that the 10 largest prospects were also 10 of the company's, the 10 largest prospects are also 10 of the country's largest prospects. It was huge. So the reality is, the reason I called this hero failure, I could have closed 50 prospects, but if they weren't in that top 10, the collective value of the 50 might be less than the value of closing one or two of the larger ones. Why did I take the job? Because I believed that if I could succeed, I'd be a hero. I would get tons of credibility, not just in my company, but in the industry. But I took the risk that I could have been a failure. In my case, I turned it into a hero, and I literally closed most of the largest of the 10 prospects, including one which was the largest cable system in the United States, and it represented a 12% increase in the company's distribution. So I earned a lot of credibility and leverage in this, because as a result of me taking on the risk of the job, but succeeding, I achieved a much higher profile with management, and that got me a lot of credibility and leverage in getting other things that I wanted down the road. Now, why do I tell you this story? Because it's a great way to raise your profiles, to take on important projects that may be too intimidating or undesirable to others. The key word here is important projects. These are projects that, if completed, would be noticed and celebrated by management because they would be impactful to the organization. Again, how do you find these projects? This is why you want to build relationships within your company to find these projects and to learn which ones would be considered important to management. Number 2, helping those in need. Become the fixer. You know, when I was in college, I ran a movie group in coordination with my dorm director, and sometimes we needed things from the university administration that were just not easily obtained. However, good old Dave, the dorm director, always had somebody that owed him a favor, and as a result, we got a lot of what we needed and we wanted. One of the frustrations in organizations is the inability to get projects completed by the tech IT department. I get it. You guys got 5,000 projects. Everybody wants theirs first. And I'm sure many of you will talk about how you already have way too many projects, limited resources, and of course, what supposedly seem like simple projects always take much longer than anyone thought. I'm sure everybody out there is going, yes, Roy, that's the case. Does anyone ever understand this? Yes, because it's never simple. Once in a blue moon, you do something and it works. And you're like, uh-oh, something's going to go wrong, right? This is why I highly recommend everyone builds relationships on the business side of your organization. Again, I'm not saying it's easy, but find ways to connect and meet with them. In some companies, there are employee special interest groups and all kinds of stuff. Maybe you're interested in sports. Maybe you're interested in whatever. You have family groups and things. But within the groups, you got people from a wide variety of areas within the company. The membership in this group crosses disciplines. So join some groups that interest you, whether it's a book club, if you have kids, a family support group, sports teams. Meet people from other areas. Another way to meet business types is to volunteer for work teams that are cross-discipline. The reason I recommend this is to find ways to help those with business needs. This could include helping peers with software or other issues, helping someone in another department with issues that would benefit from your expertise. Do lots of favors for people because they'll remember you when you have a time of need. If you're great at Excel, believe me, there's no shortage of need to help people with Excel issues and ways to do things. The more favors you do, the more you build a positive reputation. There was an attorney in Washington, D.C. named Vernon Jordan. He built his entire career on connecting people at high levels. He got people jobs at the White House. He connected lots of high-level people, and you can be assured that when he needed business or anything else, everyone took his call, which I think at one time even included the President of the United States. Here's another one. Do work outside the company that provides notoriety for the company. Significant volunteer work. Companies like to be seen as contributors to their communities. Many companies have philanthropy divisions that provide money and resources to the communities. A great way to get noticed and to raise your profile in your company is to do great things outside of work. So we talked earlier about the branding strategies, getting quoted in articles, but also you can get on panels at trade shows and conventions, Do some interviews, post them on YouTube. Then when people search for your company, they see your interview. Many companies' public relations departments track company publicity, and they provide that information to senior leadership. Imagine the CEO of your company seeing you again and again representing the company well. Now, if you're not looking for that level of visibility, you could also volunteer to help nonprofit organizations. But now, I'm not suggesting you do a bake sale, and that's a good thing, but that's not going to do as much for you as using your skills to help them. For example, if you're a developer, an engineer, and you can help them make substantial improvements to their software and IT infrastructure, this could turn into a story in the newspaper or on a website that makes your company look good because so-and-so from XYZ company saved the day at United Health, at American Red Cross in Minneapolis. Oh my goodness. You'd also, again, senior management is seeing that one of their employees used their expertise to help this nonprofit that's feeding the poor people right there in Chicago. You now made the company look good, and they look great by giving back, and now they know your name. There are many ways to do things outside the company. The key is to getting the most value out of them is to do important enough projects for, what more well-known organization using the skills you're paid for at your company for these high visibility organizations. But while that's your objective, I'm not saying you're using your skills for a less known organization is bad, because you also never knew who's on the board of these organizations and who they know. If nothing else, it might help you get job offers that could help motivate your employer to give you a raise or to promote you. So, this type of stuff gets you visibility. Getting the top executives' attention, researching top executives' needs and objectives. So another thing that's really important, the more you can understand what the leadership of your organization wants to do, their vision and the steps they are taking to move towards that, the more you'll be able to talk in that language that resonates with them. So let's talk about the CEO and top leaders set the tone and culture for the organization. Even the largest companies' cultures reflect the attitudes of the senior leaders. If the CEO is very frugal and watches every penny, you can be assured this was reflected in the policies and procedures at that company. So one of the things I recommend is to research the top leadership of your company to best understand who they are and what they're looking to do. Before I have any meeting, I research people on LinkedIn, in Google, any place that I can go. If the person is a technical person, I have a sense of how they might approach any proposal or discussion that we might have. If they come from a creative world, they'll mostly see things a little differently. One of the things I suggest, you set up Google Alerts at alerts.google.com. Here, I'll put that in here. Alerts, alerts.google.com. At alerts.google.com, and use the names of the top executives as well as your company name, and you get regular updates of what's being published online and learn what they're saying and doing. This is going to help you in the messaging and your communications. For example, if you know your CEO is really focused on mobile, then keeping that in mind at every communication is going to help your requests get better received and considered, because that's a key objective of your company. So what about awards and certification? Do they help your reputation and clout in your organization? In rare instances, yes. If you get a national award that gets published in the public world and is recognized in your industry. But keep in mind, companies are focused on making money, and awards don't usually increase a company's profits or sales. Awards and certifications are nice, and they're good because they show you're qualified for your job, but that in itself is like almost a minimum requirement. You guys, a lot of people have to be certified on Microsoft or certified on different software. That's just a requirement to make sure you know what to do, because software changes and everything. But that's not going to get you a raise. That's just to keep you in your job and to show you're current. So awards and certifications are nice to have, but if you do great work for your company that saves or makes a lot of money, that's what management will see and care about. Okay? That's what they'll see and care about. So it's 20 minutes after the hour. I know it says 10-minute break, but we only have 40 minutes left. We got a lot to cover. So let's just take like a 5-minute break now.